contributed from the guys who started the game. I thought they really executed the game plan, and then got a real boost from all the guys that came off of the bench as well. So that's what it takes to get 3 points in this league. It's very, very difficult. We've had quite a few road games, and now we go on a 2-game road stretch to difficult places in Nashville and Atlanta. But to be back at home against Minnesota, had a really good feeling. Afternoon game. I thought that the crowd was excellent, and really excited now to follow it up with a strong performance in Nashville. Would also like to wish luck to our U15s who are currently in action at the GA Cup, doing a lot of good work, and our U17s who kick off in a big one tonight on Apple TV. For those that don't know, tune in.
Thanks, Jim. Matt to George.
How's Andre?
Yeah, so Andre was on the field today. He's in the final stages of clearing concussion protocol. Obviously, head injuries are something we take very seriously at the Philadelphia Union and in the league. But he has progressed and felt better each day, good enough to be out on the field today. But still now the final test is what goes on, with the medical staff. And if he passes that today, he'll be good for the game. If he doesn't, there'll be a little bit of a setback, and then we'd lean on Oliver.
In terms of schedule-wise, it seems like the schedule's been different this year with the cross-conference games.
Yeah.
Front-loaded first, except for Chicago.
Yeah.
I wonder if now you go into the stretch of 2 difficult road games against Eastern Conference teams, if that's kind of beneficial that you guys have maybe worked out some of the kinks early and now we're in a little bit more of a rhythm.
Yeah, look, you don't want to say 6-pointer early, you know what I mean? But at the same time, you want to win every game. I'll preface it by saying that, but certainly the Eastern Conference games where you're taking points from direct opponents have a little more weight to them. So going on the road, either a point or 3 is big. You're right. It has been unique this year where we've played a lot of our Western Conference games are now done. I think that'll help things on the travel side as we get later into the summer months for sure. So there's some advantages, maybe some uniqueness and differences this year for sure. I think after Salt Lake coming up in a few weeks, we're all but done with the Western Conference. So it is different. It's strange how Seattle would have been done, but Seattle also got rescheduled. So yeah, it's unique for sure. But at the same time, I think we've gotten a little bit better as the games have gone on. Could have turned a few of those draws into wins, but still unbeaten. And we want to continue to take pride in being really tough to play against. And it starts with Nashville, who's a really hard-nosed, organized, well-coached team. And we'll have to be on top of our game to get a result.
Joe Tanzi.
Hey, Jim, how are you?
Hi, Joe.
When you look back at these last 2 matches and kind of look at the film at what Jacob and Jack have done, do you see any distinct differences from what they've been doing these last 2 games compared to the start of the season?
Yeah, look, we've talked with both of them, and we know how good of players they are. They're 2 of the best center backs in the league. Damian also is in the same category and has had a great season for us as well. So we're really fortunate to have 3 incredible center backs here in our roster. A lot of teams don't have that luxury. If you do remember though, Joe, Jacob had the surgery at the end of last year. It does still take time in game action and live reps to get back up to full speed. And I think in the last couple of games, you've seen him be there. Jack as well. Jack missed a little bit of a stretch of preseason with an injury, and now has really regained his full fitness and form. And they've both been excellent in the last couple of games. Going on the road now, we're going to need all 3 of them to be ready for when they're called upon, because we're going to lean on them heavily. I think we have the best stable of defenders in this league. We take great pride in that, and obviously helps to have Andre as well. So yeah, I think that don't lose track of the fact that the injury, the recovery for both of them, and missing some time in the preseason hurts. And now that they're backing up to speed, they're 2 of the guys that I kind of least worry about getting going, because I know how good they are and how cerebral they are and professional they are. So, there were some tough performances early as a team in the league and in the Champions League, but I think we've kind of turned things around a little bit as a group and are harder to play against defensively.
Jose Nunez?
Hey, Jim, good afternoon. In terms of obviously the question around Blake and him clearing protocol or getting to clearing protocol, I guess it begs the question, how is Trent progressing in terms of his injury? Obviously, with Andrew Rick and the limited amount of loans that you can bring up from Union 2 and how difficult that can become to manage. Looking into the summer and what you're going to have to do, how's Trent first and foremost? And are you guys considering maybe looking for another option as well?
Yeah, look, Holden is still in the cast, so he's out. He's out on the field and able to do things with his feet and continue to stay sharp that way with Phil Whedon, which is good. But he's not eligible or able to play anytime in the near future. So you're right. If we do, miss Andre in this one, that's another call up that we would use for Rick, which is a good thing. Rick is going to have a great future here at the club and going to be our first team player. But as you start to use those, I believe 4 allotted call-ups all of a sudden now, your roster status changes and there's some, I'll just say moving parts as there is on every MLS roster with all the rules and regulations. So wish it was a little simpler where you could just call up your own players and try to develop them. But there's rules in place for a reason, I guess. And we'll adjust accordingly. But hopefully, Andre's able to go tomorrow and we don't have to burn one of those call-ups. But right now with Holden out, Rick would be the one that would be called up. You can talk about now in the right moment if there is someone else, but we haven't really seen anyone or felt the need to make that move quite yet.
And then finally, how big of a Monterrey fan were you last night?
Huge. I got a Monterrey jersey. I got pom-poms. I got everything. So no, it's something that would be special for the club. And look, again, people will have a comment on, what a weird way to qualify or whatever it is, but there still is the 5 years of consistency and doing it well. We'll get rewarded for if Monterrey is able to pull this off. So I'm a big Monterrey fan. I believe it's $50 million if you get in that competition for the club, which each club that gets in, which is a real prize money for things. So yeah, I'm certainly pulling for Monterrey to host the final, win their games and host the final. Although that Pachuca team looks pretty good, as we learned down there in Mexico. They looked pretty good last night in Costa Rica. And yeah, there's a lot of good teams left, still a long way to go, but certainly pulling for Monterrey.
Yeah, you should connect Tano Ortiz over in Monterrey with your friends at Commonwealth. Safe travels.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
And Alamoni?
Hi, Jim. You talked about shifting formations mid-match, similar to what your former assistant, Pat Noonan, is doing now in Cincy. What have you learned from him, but also what difference does your current staff bring to the table that you wish you had in 2022?
Yeah, look, I've been really fortunate to have incredible people to work with, whether it's BJ Callahan, who's now doing great things with the national team, Mike Sorber in the past, Oka Nikolov, Pat Noonan, and all these guys have gone on to bigger and better places and done really, really well. And I've been impressed with everything that they do. So I'm humble enough to know that I can lean on them and learn from them. I hope they learn some things from me as well. But in Philadelphia, I've said it before, we don't want to just develop players. That's not just the only thing we want to do. We want to develop staff members, coaches, and have them go on when the time is right. So, happy for all the success Pat has had. I think us, them, and maybe the Galaxy are the 3 last unbeaten teams. That means you're hard to play against. Changing formations in game is not something I love to do, but sometimes out of necessity with the personnel and the way the game's going, it's something that comes up. So we've become a little more flexible. I still have certain principles and things I believe in with the personnel that we have and that Cincy has right now. We'll have some differences just on the players. choose from. But you know, it is good to in game, you know, be able to adapt, adjust, get a good shout from one of your assistant coaches, and it just grows the trust that we all have in each other. It's good that we all push each other in different ways. You have to be open and willing to learn and listen and adjust in this game. Otherwise, you die, and that is really the nature of pro sports. So I think that everyone can get better. Young players, young coaches, old coaches. But if you're not willing to listen and always constantly be trying to learn and get better through substitutions, through formations, through training sessions, you're not going to last very long in this business.
Final question will go to Joe Tanzi.
Jim, what are the conversations like right now with guys like Bizo and Bueno, who obviously starting caliber players, but are stuck behind starting, guys playing at incredible levels right now? What do you, I guess, tell them in this moment?
It's hard. Look, we have a group that everybody wants to play minutes, and I always want players that want to start every game. So 1 through 11 are always going to be very happy with me and the rest of the staff, right? But in a lot of ways, guys, 12 through 28 are the most important players on the team, because you need those guys to be training at their max to make the starters sharper. You need those guys to now, be prepared themselves for now if there's an injury or there's a late game substitution or even an in-game one. They need to be ready when they're called upon. And I think you saw an example of that in this game. We put Ali in a different position and that he probably thought he was going to be playing in the game. He adjusts, adapts, gets an assist in the game. Andre comes out with a concussion, something I can't prepare for or plan for. But Oliver now steps in and does a great job for us. That's what real teams do. Nothing can go good for a goalkeeper in that moment, right? To go in up a goal, it can only be a disaster. And he did a great job. Bueno, even in the last seconds of the game, made a couple plays to secure the shutout. Chris Donovan comes in and should have an assist on the one that he plays across to Jack McGlynn. So these guys, it's the hardest part, to keep those guys hungry and training hard every day. And they deserve a ton of credit because they're very professional. I'll go back to even Raffanello. Gives us an incredible 90 minutes, and doesn't in Portland, and then doesn't get even a second in the game against Minnesota, but comes and trains hard this entire week. That's a real team, and that's the definition of what it means to be a professional. Because if you do look up, sometimes you go, you know what? Kai Wagner's playing good. Quinn Sullivan is playing at a level not just for a great American attacker, but for any attacker in our league right now. So you go through the lists and the players that are in front of you. If you're self-aware and understand and see the full week of training, I have no agenda for or against any player. I want to win just like they do. And they're making my job really hard to select and pick players. And that is a really good problem for a coach to have.